where that frustration is and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Puig it's hard because some people don't like him because they think he's arrogant on the field. They don't like the bat flips or the different things he does, like staring people down and all that. I personally, I love that stuff. I love the competitiveness, and I love the flash. I mean, Bryce Harper does the same thing. And different pitchers, like a Jose Fernandez, is really emotional out there. Even Madison Bumgarner can get really emotional and yelling at people and all that. I don't mind that. I think what happens, though, is when you your teammates just expect you to be professional and show up on time and put in the work. And things were so easy for him so quickly when he came up that he didn't really learn that. He didn't have to. He could just walk into the batter's box and step into the batter's box and react and hit over 300 and be amazing. And I think baseball is really hard, and pitchers have learned they've adjusted. They know how to pitch him now, and he's finding the game isn't as easy anymore. He has to study. He has to prepare. And it's been a little bit of an adjustment for him. He's only 24 years old, so he's going to want to sleep in or, like, go out and hang out with friends or meet girls or do whatever the rest of us did when we were 24. But the problem is, he's got to be accountable to his teammates. And yeah, they were getting frustrated that he was always the last person at the ballpark, that he's the last person on the field between innings because he's playing around on his phone at his locker, and just different things like that are sort of amplified because people already hate him because of his perceived arrogance. So I think it's an easy fix. I think he's just got to put in the work ethic, and honestly, if he does, he'll be fine. He's talented enough without putting in the work that it just shows, like, as soon as his work ethic matches his ability, he could be one of the top 5 players in the league. It's really up to him.
Well, I have to ask Molly. Now, in the press release, it talked about Greinke throwing his suitcase off the bus. Did that really happen?
Right. Yes. I wouldn't have put it in my book if it didn't happen.
It's kind of hard to believe that teammates at that level would throw a suitcase off the bus. Can you give us a little insight as to what happened there with the frustration that Greinke had?
Sure. Well, Greinke honestly is a guy who doesn't sugarcoat things, and he might do what everybody else wants to do, or he might say what everybody else is thinking. It's that kind of person. And they'd flown to Chicago, and they were driving. They were on the bus from Chicago or from O'Hare down to downtown, which is about an hour bus ride. Especially in traffic, it can be longer. And every year, the Dodgers do their rookie hazing on that bus ride, and they buy. When I say hazing, I mean it's harmless. They make them dress up in silly clothes, and then they're supposed to go up to the front of the bus and sing or tell like embarrassing stories about girls. Just totally like cheesy stuff. But Puig and some other teammates were playing dominoes in the aisle and blocking the way, so and basically like ruining the day. The rookies couldn't get up there, and it seems cheesy, but it's an important rite of passage, and it's important for the rookies too to kind of feel like they're part of the team. And when the bus got about 5 minutes away from the hotel, somebody in Puig's group said, "Okay, we're going to make the rookies go into this restaurant and get us pizza." But at that point, they had played a day game in Colorado. They had flown all the way to Chicago. They'd been on the bus for another hour, and they were tired. The veterans, they just wanted to go back to the hotel. But the bus was stopped, and Puig was actually he had worn flip-flops on the team flight, another thing that annoys people because they're supposed to be dressed up in their suits. And he wanted to put his shoes on to go into the Italian restaurant, and so he was in the luggage bay looking for his shoes with the bay open looking for his bag. And everybody was yelling at the bus driver, just saying, "Please just take us back to the hotel, drop us off. We can come back and get these guys. We all want to get to sleep. This is ridiculous." And the bus driver said, "I can't move because someone's in the luggage bay. I can't. The bus automatically stops when that happens." And so they were yelling at Puig to hurry up, and he wasn't inspired by that. So Greinke got off the bus, took his bag, tossed it into the street, and then shut the luggage bay. And basically, it nearly came to blows. J.P. Howell, the Dodgers relief pitcher, intervened and stopped it. And then the bus continued on, and I think Puig got his pizza, and that happened.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the time, I know we've kept you on a little longer than was originally scheduled, but I just got another question I want to ask, if that's all right.
Sure.
With the Dodgers right now, the past couple of years, they've fell short of the ultimate goal, usually running into the Cardinals. And I guess the question I have with, Don Mattingly's been there for a little bit, and, they're very talented squad led by, pitching staff led by Greinke and Kershaw. Mm-hmm. Is it World Series or bust this year for the Dodgers? And if the Dodgers don't make the World Series, does Don Mattingly lose his job?
It depends, honestly, on the way they lose. The way they lost in 2013, they lost a couple of playoff games that should have been won, that Mattingly was outmaneuvered in. Last year, they lost because they didn't have a bullpen. The moves that he made in the playoffs were totally justifiable, and there was just no bullpen. So that wasn't his fault. This year, it's a bit rough because, again, the bullpen's been struggling, and he doesn't he didn't fill the bullpen, and they also lost two of their starting pitchers to season-ending injuries, basically as the season started, in Brandon McCarthy and Hyun-Jin Ryu. So if they lose because they have a bad bullpen, it's hard for me to see him, getting fired over that. But if he makes if it's clear that he makes some sort of mistake, or they feel as if he's lost the clubhouse or something happens, like what's going on in Washington right now, which just seems like a disaster, and that Matt Williams is perhaps not the best person for the job there, then yeah. But that being said, I don't get the sense he's on the hot seat right at this very minute. It could certainly happen. They could certainly collapse and he could get fired. If they don't make the World Series in the next 2 seasons, I don't expect he will be kept on, just because of the expectations and the money that's being spent. But yeah, I don't think he's going to get fired for sure if they don't make it this year.
Well, and I'll throw one last question in, Molly. We appreciate your time tonight. And it has to do with the Dodgers before the non-waiver trade deadline. The Dodgers were pretty active. And how would you grade them out with all the moves they made before the non-waiver trade deadline?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting. They have their two best prospects, Corey Seager and Julio Urias, are two in the top 5 prospects in all of baseball. And so the problem is when you're at the trade deadline, when teams are calling, they want one of those two guys, or both of them. They want to go back and tell their fan base, okay, look, we gave up Cole Hamels, we got the Dodgers' best prospect. The deal was, though, they weren't going to move those guys. Those guys are too good and very close to being major league players. I mean, both of them could be up in September. So it's not as though you're waiting 4 years or whatever for that. That being said, I would have liked to have seen them try to get a Craig Kimbrell or a Aroldis Chapman. But then you hear stories like A.J. Preller asking for Paul Goldschmidt for Craig Kimbrell, and it's like, okay, even if it was a joke, it's still like, okay, please, like, pull your head out of the clouds. This is not realistic. I would give them for a B+, I think. The only reason I don't give them an A is because they didn't get that dominant starter or dominant reliever, which I would kind of hope they would get, given that they're the Dodgers and they have the most money, and at a certain point they've got to just go for it. But I like the pieces they got. I think that Latos and Wood are great to fill out the rotation, and I like the prospect Peraza that they got from the Braves as well. We'll see what happens. They're going to have to make some more moves. They're going to have to get to help their bullpen. Everything else is pretty solid at this point, but they've got to improve their bullpen if they want to have a chance going forward, or else it'll just be the same thing that happened last year.
Well, Molly, do you want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us? Thank you for being patient and flexible. I guess, unfortunately, when you rely on technology and internet to do it, and if you have the technical issues you run into, it makes things difficult. But like I said, thank you for being patient and working with us, and it was great talking to you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and before we let you go, I want you, since we are going to post this on our website, let the listeners know where they can get a copy of the book. We'll definitely post it on our website and definitely promote the book. I look forward to reading to it. But let the listeners know where they can pick up a copy of your book and how to follow you on Twitter.
So the probably the easiest way and the least expensive way is through Amazon.com. They ship everywhere. Barnes & Noble stores have it, and different bookstores do have it, but Amazon seems to be the way to go. So hit up Amazon.
And you can follow Moly Knight on Twitter. It's Moly_Knight, and she also has the link to Amazon on her Twitter page. So make sure you go check it out. I can't wait to read it, Moly. And again, thank you for your time. I look forward to maybe talking to you on Twitter as the Dodgers move toward the postseason this year.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yep, have a good night.
Okay, bye.
All right, Evan. Molly. So that was our interview with Moly Knight. You want to give any insight?
Just a great interview with her. Pleasure for allowing, that she was able to come on and talk to us. Ended up having her on longer than we initially discussed, and I'm very grateful for that. So appreciate her willingness to come on and talk with us. So, a lot of great insight on what's going on with the Dodgers and in the locker room with the issue with Puig and Greinke, and I really love the insight on the whole Zach Greinke deal. The Clayton Kershaw deal as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of great insight. To be honest, Devin, I think you and I could have talked to her for another hour and a half, maybe 2 hours about baseball. Her background, and I know we're going to post this on the website, so you're listening to an archive, folks. Molly's background is she worked for ESPN for 8 years and actually gave up working at ESPN to write the book and spend 2 years with the Dodgers. So we kind of got thrown off a little bit due to technology. But my big thing, Evan, is I wanted to get your quick thoughts on what you thought when McCourt sold that team for $2.15 billion. That was an important question that I wanted to ask because I personally, when that happened, my jaw hit the ground. Like, really, $2.15 billion for a team that is in the cellar and is in shambles. You sold it for $2.15 billion. And her insight was great. But as a fan, Evan, when that deal went down, do you remember what your initial thoughts were?
It's been a while, but it was definitely quite shocking how much money they paid. My jaw about hit the ground, but Molly talked about how it wasn't an overpay, and I'll definitely trust her for word on it. And I'm sure the ownership group that bought it I'm sure they're definitely reaping the benefits of buying the team. There's a lot of profit that comes into buying baseball teams, and with the television contract that she was talking about, it's definitely worth the money. And I want to know if the Dodgers current ownership group, if they decide they want to go and sell it, I want to know. I don't even want to imagine what the new ownership will get for it.
Well, you would have to think it would be. I would say you'd have to be looking at $3 to $4 billion. I mean, they're now a World Series contender, and being in LA and with the deepest pockets for payroll, I would imagine that like you said, if they put this team on the block to sell, it would have to go $3 to $4 billion in my mind. It would have to the way that they're competitive. So again, I thought it was a great interview tonight, buddy, and we'll definitely get this up and posted. Any other insight about Molly's conversation tonight, or can we let the listeners go?
No, I don't have any other insight to mention. I just want to apologize to the listeners for technical difficulties. Those who are hoping to listen to her live, make sure you check it out. We're going to have the interview as soon as we can, post it on the website, and also I'm going to post it on. I have a personal Spreaker page. I'm going to post it on that as well. But again, I just want to thank the listeners, and I hope everyone has a good weekend. And what I would like to talk about on Monday is a couple of things that we would have talked about today if it wasn't for the guest. is Alden Smith is now